Hi, I'm Simon from Pillarix Craft Supplies, and today I'm going to be showing you how to put together your StampARing Pro Press. So what's in the box? So when you get your box will arrive with a seal on here. All you need to do is break that seal. It's really easy, unless your name's Simon. Wrapped up in some lovely tissue paper, and it's got some details on there. It just says thank you for choosing the StampARing Pro Press. For inspiration, on our website www.pillarix.com, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram and Twitter. There are social medias. Tissue paper may be a different colour to this one, but all the products inside are the same. So inside the box we've got a packet which has got our magnets, our extra piece of clear vinyl and all our MDF pieces. The instruction booklet, which is full colour, and it goes through step by step, tells you what you've got or what it should be in your box on this side before it goes into the instructions. Then we have so we've got the base, your base plate, which is here, and you've got your 16-point star, which is your main element where you'll attach your stamps, and you've got the guide around the outside, which these just slot in perfectly inside one another. And then in the bottom you'll find 2 sheets of the clear vinyl. So to make your StampARing Pro Press, you will also need some inks. These can be in the form of sprays, pigments, dye-based inks. You'll also need some glue, which is suitable for MDF. So I've got our PVA glue here. You'll also need a craft knife and some form of decoration. So you can either use stamps. You don't have to use our stamps. You can use other branded stamps as well. I'm just going to be using these in mine, and I'm also going to be using a Precision Stencil Pro. I'm also going to need a pencil for my design. This isn't a need. If you're using embossing powders, you'll need a heat gun, and you can use a hot glue gun to secure your magnets in if you wish to do so. Any glitters, anything like that. I've got some little cabochons that I'm going to use as well to decorate mine. When you're decorating your press, what you need to take into account is you've got on the main element on the outside of the guide and on the underside of the actual press, you have it burnt into the wood. So you've got grids burnt into the wood, you've got numbers burnt into the wood. So it's up to yourself. If you want to cover those, you can do, but they are there for reference. So I would advise to use something like an opaque ink, like one of our inks, our water-based inks, or something that's not like a texture paste, which is gives you full opaque coverage. Also, likewise on the base plate as well, you've got this, which is really handy. You can always put that back in once you've decorated, but it is much easier just to use an opaque ink over the top of it. So I'm going to start first of all by doing the underside of my press, and I'm just going to use some of our opaque inks just on that, rather than use a full coverage ink. So I'm going to get some of the sprays, and I think I'm going to use, what colour should I use? I think I'm going to use orange, so I'm using my Pixie Winks for this, and I am probably better off pulling in a spray box, just so that I don't get ink all over. So I'll do both bits separately. Put that in the bottom there. And I'm going to use for this one, I'm going to use the carrot orange. And I'm just going to spray that over the top. And then let that soak in a minute. Then I'm going to get a tea towel, because I've got no blue roll, and I'm just going to dab off the excess. It's my fault for not being prepared. So you can still see underneath that. Thank you. Adam's just brought me some blue roll in. So you can still see on that the guide. So the guide is still visible. So the colours come through, but it's still visible underneath the guide. If I was to use something like a pigment ink over the top of that, you'd lose that definition and you'd lose that guide. As I say, you can put that back in, but it's easier just to use an opaque ink. And you've also got that lovely sparkle on there from the Pixie Wink. There we go. So again, I do that same sort of thing on this bit so I don't lose my numbers, because I really don't want to lose my numbers. And I'd also do the same thing on this bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back in a moment once I've done that, and I'll show you how to decorate the other side. So now that I've finished decorating the sides that I've got the guides on, I'm going to show you how to do the other side, which is going to be the top side. So what I noticed as well while I was doing this was the lighter colours, so like the yellow that I've used on this and the orange that I've used on this, have allowed me to still see the guides underneath. But what I did with the base was I had to draw my guide back on again, because I used a darker colour, which caused the lines to sort of like fade into the background. So I've also used different colours to show myself where each section would be. So and then I've extended the lines here, because I can then use that as a guide if I want to stamp in the corners, like so. So I'm going to put these bits to one side, and the only bit that I'm going to be working on at the moment is the top side, so the visible side of my stamp press. So I'm going to be using the Precision Stencil Pro for this, to create my background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my centre by popping my ruler across, and then just giving the centre point a mark. It doesn't matter, because this bit is not going to be visible, because we are going to have the disc, one of the discs, that will sit over the top like that anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to go top to bottom as well, and I'm going to mark that same centre line, just so I've got a cross in the centre of my page. Not that that's a page in any means. Then I'm going to bring in my Precision Stencil. I'm going to pop it on a magnetised board, and I'm going to pop that in the centre. What I want to do is have the point, so the one that I'm using one of the 8-point, I'm using the 8-point mandala, so I know that that's going to work perfectly within the sections. And then I'm just going to slot this, my guide, around, and then I'm just going to hold that down in place with my magnets. Attach my StampARing. It's not even a StampARing, is it? I'm going to attach my precision stencil together as I would normally. Then I'm going to choose my design. And the design I want to use for this, I think I'm going to use my favourite design that's on this, which is that one. I'm going to pop it into place, and then the colour that I'm going to use is a... Shall I do pink or shall I do yellow? I think I'm going to use a yellow. I'm going to get my small blending brush, and I'm going to go through the StampARing the same way that I would if I was doing this onto a card or onto a piece of card. I'm not too bothered about the centerpiece because, as I say, that's going to get covered up anyway, so it doesn't really matter about that. I just want a nice coverage of yellow. I'm using a pigment ink because I'm going to emboss this as well. And then I'm going to use our intense inks to go over the top of it once it's been embossed. So I'm going to go all the way around with this. Once I've finished, I will come back and show you what it looks like once it's finished. Now that's completed, I've got gone round full circle with my precision stencil. I'm going to heat emboss that using some embossing powder. So I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder over the top. And then I'm going to heat set that. Flick off any excess. And then watch the magic. Make sure your heat guns hot before you go in. It's just starting to turn now. What this is going to do, it's going to act as a resist. I'm going to go over the top of it with ink. Just take a little bit longer because it's quite a big area which I'm doing. Over halfway now. If you've got any 12 by 12 pads, you'll also be able to just chuck your pad on the top and have a pattern already on. Or if you've got any 12 by 12 sheets of pad, you can design your design on that and put that on the top of it. So I'm just tilting that into the light just so that I can see any areas that I've missed. And I know that I've missed areas because they won't be shiny like the rest of it. Right, and using some intense inks, I've put them into some cut and dry. So I'm going to be using our inks to colour this up. I'm just going to get some on my brush. And then I'm going to start in the centre and work out. So I'm starting off with the pink. You can of course spray this straight onto it as well. I think I'm going to go for a bit of an ombre type look. On this, so I'm going to go around there and then I'm going to bring my blue brush in and I'm going to add some blue to this as well, which will then turn it a lovely purpley lilac colour. And then just on my design, get some tissue and I'm pulling that design back so it stands out on there. I'm going to continue that. I'm going to do the whole thing. Colour the whole thing in using the blending brush. You have to use our inks. If you want to use stamp pads, you can use stamp pads as well. These are actually a little bit dry. Have to use inks. What I would say is if you're using any texture paste or anything like that, if you do go over the edges, you will need to file those down because it is literally, I think there's less than a millimetre gap all the way around. So whatever gap is there, it needs to stay there, otherwise it won't fit into the guide. So I'm not going for the perfect all one colour. I'm going for, it's more of a cloudy type. Bits of colour here, bits of colour there. So I don't want it all exactly the same colour. In the blue. Then if you want to get your clear overlay spray, if you want to put a clear overlay spray for this one, I'm going to be using the diamond. Remember to give it a shake. Just give it a bit of sparkle. Then I'm just going to get some paper towel just to dry that off. You can see that sparkle coming through. There. So next things that you need to do, I'll do these off camera just to speed things up a little bit, is colour. You only need to do one side on these. So you only need to do one side on each of these. Both sides on these ones. And then you've got the bits that go underneath. So it's up to you if you want to colour those. So the bits that will be visible, you've got one of the larger circle, the medium circles, two of the medium circles, and one of the smaller circles. They'll need to be coloured in as well. So I'm going to do that off the camera just to speed things up a little bit, and then I'll come back once I've done that. Right, so now I've coloured all of the pieces in. I've coloured them in with inks and used a clear overlay of the diamond pearl just over the top of those, just to give it a bit of sparkle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start putting everything together. So I'm going to take one of the pieces of my clear vinyl, and I'm going to start with the base. So I'm just going to peel back one section. Try not to touch the underside. I'll try to as little as possible. I'm just going to pop that down. You can check if it's going to sit right by just folding that out. If it's all covered, it's going to sit right. So then I'm going to start at this side and then pull a little bit back at a time and a little bit more. So the reason I'm putting clear vinyl on this is because it will allow me to wipe that clean if I get any ink on it. Another thing you could do, if you don't want to use the clear vinyl and you want to use it for something else that's on the project, you can do. I would probably use a medium to go over the top, clear gel medium, or a embossing powders if you use pigment inks. So now that's on, I'm going to turn my paper over so that the slidey side is pointing up, and then I'm going to take an ink pad because it's the first thing that I've picked up, and I'm just going to go over the top and just push that down onto there just to give it more of a grip, like that. And with a nail file or I don't know what these are called, but a bigger file, I'm going to start filing at an angle like that. And what that'll do is that'll cut this away and put it to size. There we go. Just go all the way around. And it'll just pull away like that. So if you wanted, you can put your magnets in and cover this with some paper or something if you cut. Now this is just going to be the easiest way to do it. It is going to leave the magnet exposed, but for this design I'm not too bothered about that. By doing it this way as well, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be bringing that tape and making it more secure, so making it stick more. If you want to go in with a hot glue, not a hot glue gun, sorry, a heat gun, just to try and give it that bit more stick, you can do that as well. So by that, what I mean is just go, oops, magnet's stuck, make sure it's warm, and then just go over the top. What that'll do, that'll just activate the glue. It's inside. Don't do it for too long in the same position, and don't do it for too long because you will start to notice little bubbles in there as well. Right, so that's my base done. Now the top is slightly different. With the top, what you need to do is you need to have this bit facing up. So your numbers facing up. This inside with your grid facing up. What we're going to do, we're going to do exactly the same process as this, but we are going to cut this out then with the craft knife just to release the star. So again, you can see that fits on perfectly. So if you start with your straightest edge, on there like that, and then just check that that's going to cover the whole section, which it is. Same as before, if you're lucky, it will start curling itself as you go down. Like so. Just rub that with your hand. Again, flip your card over, grab an ink pad, just to burnish that on. So my ink's not dry, so I should have actually dried that beforehand, which is why it's all over my top there. Just wipe and clean that. Work on some card. Right, again, if you want to use a heat gun, just quickly, it doesn't need to be anything long. Don't do it too long because your vinyl will shrink. Just make sure that it's on. You can tell once it's burnished on properly because you can't see. It goes a slight different colour. The colour becomes more prominent. You got your craft knife. And just go. Just releasing your star. So you need to do this all the way around. And once you've done this, the star will pop out. If it doesn't pop out, you can usually see where you need to, or where you've missed. Then we'll just need to burnish it one more time, just around the edges, and then we're going to file all of the edges just to make sure that nothing is overhanging. Because there's a groove there, your knife will just fit into the groove. And you can just use the gap as a guide. There we go, that's gone all the way around. Then, like you did with the top, the base plate, was it the base plate? Yep, like you did with the base plate, just go around with your nail file or whatever file it is that you've got. Sorry, I seem to have a lot of ink on the back of this one. Need to dry it. So on this one, you'll need to go inside as well. So here, once you've done the outside. Right, so I've done that. I've done the outside. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the inside. So all of these points here. Just lift that up, just can't see. All of those points there on the inside, all the way around. And then I'm going to do the same on this one as well, all the way around on every point. Just so that it gives a smooth edge. Once I've done that, I will come back. So as you've seen, I've stuck these on here and here, and I made my little insertion into the vinyl first, just to give it something to adhere to. I have stuck these on with I did stick them on with PVA, but then I took them off and I've stuck them back on with a glue gun, because I just want some speed while I'm doing this for you. I've also stuck these pieces on in that sort of order, and I've stuck my magnets in. Now I'm going to show you how you stick your magnets in. There's a specific way you need to do this, and if you get it wrong, you're going to be taking it apart again, and it is a pain. So in the instruction books, it tells you to pop a T on the top one. So it's just so you know that's the top. So we'll call this piece No. Once you put it on that one, pop that one to the bottom. T again, and just keep going through until you've gone through all 8 of your magnets. So all 8 of your magnets have got a T on. When you're inserting your magnets, what you need to do is, so in your booklets, it doesn't tell you to put this on first. So you'd be working from the top in your book, because you put these on first in your book, your circles. However, I've stuck this on first, so I'm going to be working the opposite way around. So where it's told me to put my T face down, my T's are on the bottom there. So pop your T's on the bottom, sorry about that. Pop your T's on the bottom of that one. And then on this one, you'll pop your T's facing up, so they're all going the same way. So all my T's are pointing down on both once that's attached. So either have them all pointing downwards or all pointing upwards. If you don't, they will repel each other and this will not stick. And you'll have to gouge them out and then put them back in. So once you've done that, we're going to start sticking our feet on, just to give it a bit of stability on the bottom. Now I did stick my magnets in with a glue gun, and that seems to have held really well, so I would advise that. I think in the book it does say use PVA or another wood glue, but if you're going for speed, a hot glue gun will work just as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my first magnets in all 4 corners using my glue gun. Push down and give it a bit of a wiggle when you're pushing it down. That'll help spread the glue out, and it'll also dry a bit quicker as well. Doesn't matter if it always spills, you're not going to see the bottom of this anyway. If you're a perfectionist, you can always just pull that off. So when you're doing it, push them in just a little bit, just so that they don't overhang and so that they're not visible. That's just my personal preference anyway. If you're using a glue gun as well, what that'll do is that'll keep your magnets in the holes even better. And I'm going to put one in the middle and then one either side, so we've got 9 on there. Make sure you push them right down, because what you don't want is any unevenness. So your board should be perfectly flat when you flip it over. So that's one of the advantages of using a wet glue as well, because it's thinner opposed to this type of hot glue gun. But if you push it down far enough, it will flatten. So when I flip that over now, it doesn't wobble. And then we've got 4 minis. You don't need to use these bits, but I just think it gives just that little bit of stability just between these points here. Again, if you want to decorate them, you can do. I'm not decorating them because you can't see them. Out of sight, out of mind. But that's just me all over at the moment. And when I flip that over, it's really, really, really stable. Bring that bit back in. I'm going to pop that to the side. Now I'm going to work on the top side of this. So what you can do, if you've got something to pop under, you can work on this part if you want. So I'm just making sure my numbers are at the top and going into the 1 position. So those numbers going into that 1 position. So it's this one here. And I'm just making sure that sits perfectly up there. The reason I've done that is because when I'm working on the reverse, when my start point is at the top there, when I flipped it over and put my stamp on, I know my stamp's going to be underneath this. You don't have to do it like that. It still will work even if you don't do it like that. But that's just the way I like to do it. So I've got my cross there from earlier, from the very beginning. I'm just going to put my cross over the top of that so I can see. And then I'm going to pop this start tight arrow on there like that. So there'll be a little bit of a gap just at the top. And then again, I'm either going to wet glue or I'm going to glue gun. In my case, glue gun into position. Just make sure it's even on both sides. I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I like what you can see to be right, at least. Then we're going to stick this bit down. Put that right up to that and push down. And then I'm going to take, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop some glue in there. I've actually been thinking you may be able to do this with Velcro on the underside of that as well. So then you should be able to take it apart and transport it. So it's in there. It's gripped already. And then I'm going to do the same with this part here. So I'm going to pop that on there.